is to advocate, to support, to empower. Moms go into labor thinking that it's completely out of their control. You just gotta accept whatever happens, and that's the myth that we are taught as women and even as families. Like, doctors will tell you, well, you can't control your labor, but that's not true. You have a doula who will tell you all of your options honestly and inform you and educate you on every single step of your pregnancy, of your labor, and of the postpartum period. And you can make more educated and informed decisions instead of being in the bed, in the midst of a contraction, trying to decide something that you know nothing about. We basically educate and then we advocate. So when a doctor who wants something different for you comes to you and says, hey, this is my medical opinion and this is what you should do, if that's not what you want, you're going to feel pressure to do that. But if you have a doula with you, they're going to be there to support you and make sure that your birth goes the way that you want it to go.
Why do we need doulas?
Not everybody needs a doula, but we as Black people specifically, or minorities, Black, brown, and light-skinned people, we all kind of have an injustice against us in a lot of areas in our life. And it's kind of the doula's job when they come into your life to make sure that they holding you up. Because there's going to be a couple of families out there that go into the hospital and they're going to be treated with inequality or treated like less than just because of their skin color or because they haven't been educated, no matter what the reason is. And you are going to experience a whole lot of side eye and shade just because you don't know half of what the doctor is talking about. But if you have a doula that comes in, they can rectify that whole situation and provide some more equity as opposed to trying to make everything equal. We actually have the amount of support needed for every family because every family is unique.
How have you been able to impact lives as a doula?
It impacts my own life, for one, because I'm giving back to my community, thinking about the things that people go through on a regular basis during childbirth. Families who lose children during birth, they need that support. So for me, impacting my own life, it just gives me a sense of just giving back in the sense of helping other families and impacting other families. I mean, women go into this, or families, moms and dads go in together and they feel completely bombarded. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what's going on. And by the time that whole thing is over, they feel completely relieved because they had somebody that was there that whole time that actually knew what was going on. So it kind of makes the whole experience a lot less terrifying.
Why aren't more families using doulas?
Because they don't know that a doula exists. There's no marketing for doulas all over the United States. There's no support. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when doulas walk into the hospital, they are met with like this crazy look, like, oh God, here we go. Like instead of us being welcomed for working with these moms, we kind of set aside. Sometimes they won't even let us in the room. Sometimes, there was one time where I went in with a client and they made me sign a non-disclosure to not help my client, saying I will not interfere with this client's care. I will not, trying to prevent me from doing my job. Doulas are not supported in healthcare, but they are definitely needed. And people don't know that this is a resource that could really change their entire experience. So, in my own experience, when I think about having my youngest child, I can recall that when I walked into the emergency room, my water had already broken, and I had already been in active labor for a good hour. By the time I had finally got up to labor and delivery, signing all my papers, which I didn't read because I was in so much pain, the doctor walked into the room and asked the nurse, "Did you check her cervix?" And she responded, "No, I didn't," because I saw that her water had broken. And instead of the doctor continuing with my care, he was like, "Well, I'm not doing nothing until you check her cervix, because she might not have broken her water, or she might have just," I don't know what he expected, but he didn't really believe that I was in labor. So then the nurse checked my cervix and verified with the doctor, but because she gave him like back talk the first time, he decided that he had to check my cervix again on his own, which is actually poor care, because you're not supposed to check the cervix but one time in the beginning, and then after hours again, because the more time you check the cervix, you introduce you heighten the risk of infection. And I didn't know any of that, so I was just kind of just letting the doctor do whatever the heck, because I didn't know what was going on. It was whatever the doctor said, that's what it was going to be. And then by the time the doctor decided, oh yeah, she's in active labor, and they wanted to give me the epidural, it was already time to push. So because of that, my epidural was delayed. It didn't even have time to go into effect because they put the epidural in, and I had to start pushing. After my daughter was born, and they took the epidural out, the effects were still going. Like the medicine was still affecting me. I was still numb, to the point that an hour later I had fallen asleep and woke up screaming in pain because I didn't know that I had to use the bathroom, because my body was numb and my brain did not receive. The nurse explained that basically the nerves that should have told my brain, hey, you have to use the bathroom, they were numb. So there was no receptors, or there was no signal to my brain saying, hey, you have to use the bathroom. And my bladder almost burst because of that. If I had a doula that was there to support me, then I could have avoided that entire situation. I could have avoided having my cervix checked so many times. I could have avoided a situation where I almost lost my life because I didn't know what was going on. So something like that could have been avoided if I would have just known that a doula was a resource to me.